although it hasn't popped up yet. All right, okay, yep. So recording has started. Right, this afternoon's webinar is on approaches to feedback in Moodle. I'll go through the format of what I'm going to do. So in terms of this afternoon, I mean, there's only 3 of us. I can see, Margaret, you've already gone in and used the chat room. So what I usually do is I just go through a presentation for about 20 minutes or so, and then if there's any questions that come up, people can usually put them into the chat room. But given there's only 3 of us, if anybody wants to just chip in, if they've got a microphone, you can usually switch it on. There's the microphone icon at the bottom of the screen, and if you just switch that on, you should be able to speak and maybe ask me a question. But as I say, the chat room facility is on the left hand side, and as you can see where the arrow is. All right, so let's get started properly. The aims of this session is really focusing on just the use of rubrics. This is a fairly complicated topic, especially because there are 2 types of rubric in Moodle. And I'll refer to them as the Moodle rubric and the Turnitin rubric, and they're quite different. Well, they do the same thing, but they're very different to set up. So we'll have a look at those briefly. Then we look at maybe how to give feedback to the students using rubric, and just some general tips on using rubrics. As I say, this is quite a big topic, so I am not going to be able to cover every single item. So I'll just give you an overview, and then at the end, if I'll put up some directions of where you can you can always contact me. I'll put up my contact details, but there's places you can go to get help with this sort of thing. So I'm just aiming to do really a sort of holistic view of what's going on. Okay, so let me switch off the camera as well. Okay, so first, really, I mean, I'm assuming maybe some of you haven't actually seen a rubric before, but at its simplest, it's not that complicated. So here's an example of a rubric on the screen in front of you. It's actually one that I've taken from a drama class, so it's a rubric for laughing. So on the left hand side, I mean, the rubrics follow the same basic setup. So on the on the left hand side, we have the assessment criteria. So in this case, it's volume, duration, body involvement, and then along the right hand side, we've got the performance levels. So you can see here it tries to define what is a chuckle, what is a giggle, what is a laugh, and what is a guffaw. All right, so anyway, that's the basic layout of what a rubric looks like, and they can be used in many different contexts. There are many advantages of using rubrics. And again, I won't go in any of these in any sort of detail, but it makes the assessment process very transparent for the students. It can lead to increased reliability, especially the case where you've got multiple lecturers marking the students' work, so the lecturing is much more reliable and consistent. It can also give richer feedback, i.e. better feedback, and it also encourages the student to take responsibility for their own learning, especially if they know what to do next in terms of where they've been going wrong and what they need to improve upon. Okay, what I want to do now, and is the main part of this discussion really, this presentation, is to actually look at what we actually can do in Moodle. So I'm just going to change the view of the screen now. So I'm going to go in away from my slides into a live presentation of Moodle. So you should be able to see the screen changing in front of you now, and just in a couple of seconds time, you should be able to see now the Moodle module in front of you. Okay, all right, so this is one I've prepared before. So what I'm going to do is go into the tab that says assessment. Being a little bit slow, just waiting for it to catch up. Okay, all right, and as I said before, there are two main types of rubrics. There's the Moodle rubric and the Turnitin rubric. So first of all, let me show you how to set up and view the Moodle rubric. So first of all, we need to set up a new assignment and attach the rubric to it. So to do so, we turn the editing on and we add an activity or a resource. We choose assignment and we click on add. And we put in the name of the assignment. It's been very slow responsive. Name of the assignment. We put any details of the assignment that we're going to use. We check the correct dates, and then we scroll down. I'm not going to look at all these different options, but the most important option obviously is to look at where we actually add the rubric. So with a Moodle rubric, we go down to grade, and then where it says grading method, we switch the down box from simple direct grading to rubric, and save and return to course. Okay, so there's my assignment. If we click on it, what we need to do next is to add the rubric to it. So we're in the assignment, and then on the left hand side of the screen under administration, if we scroll down, and about 3/4 of the way down on the left hand side we'll see advanced grading. So if I click on there, and we're given the choice, we've got two options. We can create a new grading, new rubric from scratch, or we can create a new rubric from a template. So if most cases we're actually going to use one that's already been created or modify it slightly. So if I create a new grading form from a template, you will generally have access to rubrics that are in Moodle. So here are some examples. These are the first ones, a construction, and here's a health and social care one. So health and social care level 3 coursework. We can see the rubric laid out here, and if we decide this is the one we're going to use, we can use this template. So we just click on the link just below, and it asks us to confirm that, so we confirm that. And then we've got an option to actually edit the current form. So if I click on edit, we can change the description if we want to, and actually we can even change the rubric. We can make any modifications or changes, but crucially it gives us the option to switch on these options at the bottom. Again, I won't go through all the options, but I would advise you to click them all on. The one I will point out is this one here, allow grader to add text remarks for each criterion. So what that means is that when you use the rubric, as the lecturer, you can actually add comments on how the student has done on each particular criteria. That's quite a very useful box. So that's the second from last one, but I would advise you to click all of those on. All right, so that's the process of adding a pre-existing one. if I go back, go back again, that's not letting me go. Okay, so that's the process in terms of adding the rubric to an existing assignment. If I go to one that I've already set up, so when it comes to the actual marking of the assignment, so if I click on this one here, this is one that I've already set up previously, so I'm going to view. There are only 2 students on this course and one has submitted. So if I can view all submissions, you can see this student here has submitted their work, and there's a little box here, blue box, that says grade. So if I click on there, this is the view that you get as the lecturer. So this is the student's work, the assignment. So I won't open in that, but it's a Word document. So you can read through the assignment. And then in terms of using the rubric, and this is quite a sophisticated rubric with lots of options. If it was a especially good piece of work in terms of knowledge and understanding, you'd click on there. Again, if it had good research, good skills, and you would just go through just ticking whichever box you felt was most relevant in terms of the marking process. And that's relatively easy to do. You can give overall feedback, so I would go in the box below. And if you'd actually downloaded the piece of work and wanted to attach individual comments, you could do so in the last box there. Again, I won't do that. Once you're happy with all of that, you would actually save for changes. And it gives you confirmation that the changes have been made. Okay, so that's the process of setting up the Moodle assignment, editing it, and then when the submissions come in, the marking process. That is one option. The second option is a Turnitin assignment. Again, it's slightly different, and it's important that you don't get the 2 things confused. But these 2 different types of rubrics are used in different parts of the university. So I know, for example, that in health and social care they tend to use the Moodle rubrics, which is the one I've just outlined. And secondly, more so in business, the business school, they tend to use the Turnitin assignments. So again, I'm very conscious about time, but I'll go in and quickly do you a quick demo of how to set up a Turnitin assignment. So again, if I go back, setting up a new activity or resource, click on assignment, go add, add the assignment's name, so I'm just calling it Turnitin assignment. Details or description of the assignment would go below. Make sure you've got the correct dates, and again I won't go through any of those, but in terms of enabling a Turnitin assignment, we go down, scroll down to the option where it says Turnitin plagiarism plugin settings. Click that on. First of all, we have to enable Turnitin, so we click the default setting from no to yes, and then scroll down, and then where it says attach a rubric to this assignment, we have the options here. So if I click on here, you can see I've already got preset rubrics that are set there, so I could attach any one of those rubrics to this piece of work. But again, if we were starting from scratch, we'd have to launch the rubric manager. So we click on here and wait for it to load, which is taking a few seconds. Oh, more than a few seconds. Okay, so here's the one that's already attached to this rubric, called assessment criteria rubric. But if we wanted to create a new one, we click on the little 3 lines at the top left hand corner and then create a new rubric. Again, I won't go through that just because of lack of time, but actually it's not that difficult. So in terms of, we'd have to add the criteria and then add the grades. The nice thing about a Turnitin rubric is that we can have different types of rubrics as well. So if you see on the bottom, there's a couple of different headings, a couple of different icons. So the first one is a percentage sign. So this is a scoring rubric. So what this means is that actually if you click on the box, it assigns a mark to that particular criteria and then totals it up and gives a final grade. But we can also have qualitative rubrics as well. So in this case, what that means is that you could choose the criteria, but it doesn't assign an actual mark to each of those criteria. So it gives you slightly more options in terms of how you'd actually use it in the Turnitin rubric. Okay, and then once we've attached a rubric, so I'm just going to call that assessment rubric, then again what we do is save and return to course. Again, if I show you an example, so again, once the student has submitted their piece of work, if I go into this one here called business assessment, view all submissions, and then to mark a Turnitin rubric, rather than going to the grade button, on the right hand side, there's a little next to the similarity score, which is 100% in this case. Probably might ring a few alarm bells if you saw that. We've got the grade mark icon, which is the little pen. If I click on there, that will take us into the Turnitin Studio. So again, it's taking a while to load that. It's opening in a new window for me, so hopefully you can see this. Again, on the right hand side, we've got the rubric, and then we can, and it's this time we use it as a sliding scale, so we can move our marks up or down according to how we actually mark it. And we can use the normal feedback tools. So I don't know if you've used these before in terms of making bubble comments or using even pre-assigned quick marks that the Turnitin Studio has. Okay, all right, that's it in terms of Turnitin. I am conscious of time, so I don't know if I've gone through that too quickly or not. And in this view, I can't actually see if you've actually added any comments in the inbox. So let me just come out of this view and go back and see if there's any other comments. No, I haven't got any comments coming in there at the moment. Okay, let me come back out then and go back to my slides. Again, that is a very whistle-stop tour of the two different types of rubrics and how you use them in a marking context. Before I go into maybe talking about how we actually use them, if you needed further support, there's basically two places that you can go. So, okay, I'll just come back to your question in a second, Nicola. So, if Margaret's still there, if you needed further support, because I can see, I've gone through that fairly quickly, but there are two places you can go. One is to the Moodle help in Moodle, which is a button on the top left-hand corner, and that will take you to the worksheets or staff guides, and that's sort of these are quite a good idea to print these off, and then you can follow on the step by step how to set up and then mark those. So just look for the rubric, the Moodle, or turn it in just the Moodle rubric in there, or likewise you can contact the digital skills team as well, and they have a drop-in sessions. In terms of your question, it says, Nicola, if a department uses a rubric, does everyone automatically have access to, or would they only need to share it? Theoretically, they should have access to it in that school or department, but from my experience, that's not always the case. So the owner would have to share it. Probably the lecturer probably need, if they knew who that person is in that department, that's easily done. But if they're not, there is basically I don't have the rights to share it, so they would need to contact the IT support desk. If they just sent an email to them saying that they needed access to them, they should be able to help. Okay, the other tips regarding use of rubrics, again, I think it's really good practice that the actual rubrics are made available even when the assignment's set up, not just when they've handed them in, so the students clearly know what they needed to do. Also, if the students are aware of the rubric, then actually the teaching that takes place in the class can actually be related to the actual rubric as well. So if there's an activity, you would say, well, this relates to this particular criteria. And then obviously the last bit is in terms of making the feedback relevant to that criteria as well. Okay, that's it for this afternoon. I don't seem to be any other questions coming in there. We've still got a few more Moodle webinars that are taking place over the next few weeks. So we're repeating ones on anonymous marking, the Moodle site health check, getting Moodle ready for next semester. That will come at the end of this semester. And then what's new in rubric, what's new in rubric, what's new in Moodle, and then making your Moodle module accessible. Again, another good question, is there any help for staff needing to produce a rubric from scratch? I suppose the only place that you could send them, Nicola, is to me. Yeah. I mean, actually, the technical aspect in Moodle is not actually that hard. Showing somebody how to do it, you can do that. The hard bit is not actually is writing the descriptors actually in the rubric. So if they usually lecturers are quite clear about what criteria they're going to mark, but then trying to write in a fashion where students understand what is a pass or what is a fail, what is a pass, what's a good piece of work, or what's a above average piece of work, or what's an excellent piece of work. That's quite hard to actually write, and I think it's a process that lecturers have to sort of kind of learn over a little period of time, but once it's done and set up, then it's very useful. In terms of weighting the rubric, I'm just trying to think in terms of again, I didn't really go into it in the sort of presentation, but I think there are, I think in the help guide there's some guidance about how to do that. And again, it would be, I think it would be involve a certain level of discussion with the lecturer as to what or how much weighting they would particularly give to each individual part. Okay, all right. Okay, got some thank yous coming in there. Thank you very much, Nicola. Okay, so that's it for this afternoon. I'll leave my contact details up there, and there has been a recording made of obviously this, so I'll usually put that up on Yammer or tweet it out as well. Okay, thanks very much everyone. Thank you for attending.